is cutting down the nets. March Madness is here.
I was at the MAC tournament the other night between
Akron for the third straight year, pretty much at the buzzer, and then the Friday night game against Kent State. By the way, Josh, I meant to text you this, and I totally forgot. You want to talk about a rivalry? How about the greatest rivalry in all of sports, Kent State versus Akron?
Oh yeah, I love that. Dude, that's one of the most underrated rivalries ever. I
Because obviously I'm personally in it because I went to Kent State. Double bird to you, Akron.
I've been to Kent State Akron games at Kent State and at Akron. They are fantastic. But I went to the MAC championship, Akron Toledo. Akron trailed in that game by as many as 12 points.
Yeah,
They're
down by 12 and a half. Toledo almost a Cinderella run to the tournament, and then Akron does what Akron always does.
That 3-pointer with like 6 seconds left, it was amazing.
When he shot it, I said, that's no good. And then it kept going. I said, oh, shit, that's good.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this. It was really frustrating trying to get into Rocket Arena for the MAC championship. I completely missed the national anthem, completely missed player introductions, missed tip-off, missed a couple minutes of the game.
Really?
Because one of the entrance I usually go in to scan my ticket and all that was blocked off, so I had to go outside, go around to one of the other Sherwin-Williams entrances, join a huge line. It was not good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a disaster.
Only the lower bowl was open. They had the top part closed off, but I don't know what it was, but
was it so was it because they only sold the lower bowl tickets, so they blocked off all the entrances, or just the lower bowl?
No, I don't know. I don't know why, but only the lower bowl section was open. Yes, Loudville was closed off. Club level was open, but that aside, it was a great atmosphere. Like, I love going to March Madness games. When March Madness was here last year, I went to the two second round games: Alabama, St. Mary's, Michigan State, New Mexico. I love college basketball.
No, I understand that. I would never go to a March Madness game because I think the thrill of March Madness is being at home watching. I mean, Thursday and Friday is incredible. It's the two best days of the year. What is it? 11 straight hours of nonstop basketball praying for some random school you never heard of to get an upset.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I really want to pick Akron to upset Texas Tech, but I just don't see it.
Last year I thought Akron was going far in the tournament. This year I do not.
Yeah. But you look at the tournament, Duke is rightfully the number 1 overall seed. The big debate was who's going to be the 4th number 1 seed. Was it going to be Florida or UConn? I think they made the right decision going with Florida, but I understand.
I agree.
I understand if you think UConn should have gotten it, but they look completely outclassed by St. John's. But it's so hard to predict. Like, I just finished one of my brackets and I picked Arizona. I just think Arizona has been the most complete team. I think Jaden Bradley looks legit. I can't wait for him to come into the NBA. That dude, he can score, he can rebound, he can defend. My God.
The top 13 picks in this draft are supposedly in this tournament. I think Arizona is going to get 3 or 4 people drafted in the first round, along with Michigan.
Yeah, and Duke, obviously.
Yes.
But there's so many teams that you can make an argument for, like Duke, UConn, Florida maybe going back to back. Arkansas, I think, even as a 4 seed,
I agree. They ran for that SEC tournament.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin has a chance to do some damage.
Virginia, I think, has looked very impressive going back to the ACC tournament. They got a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah.
St. John's as well. I think St. John's been playing as one of the best teams in the country over the last month.
So let me ask you a question, because we did not have a lot of Cinderellas in the tournament last year. It basically went chalk for the most part. Do you think that trend is going to continue this season?
So I'll answer that with my bracket. So let me go ahead and unveil to you my final four. Okay.
Okay.
Representing, and I have it on paper, by the way. I printed it out. I filled it out so it is official. Representing the East, I do not have Duke representing the East in the Final Four. I have the UConn Huskies as the 2 seed representing the East in the Final Four. Who do they play in the Elite Eight? I do not have Duke making the Elite Eight.
Oh, really?
I have Duke losing in the Sweet 16 to St. John's, who, as a 5 seed, I think St. John's will defeat Northern Iowa. Then I think they will defeat Kansas. I think they will defeat Duke, and then they will lose to UConn in the Elite Eight.
But before you continue, Duke is going to win their first round game. I think they're playing Siena or something.
Correct. And then they will play the winner of Ohio State and TCU.
I think if Ohio State beats TCU,
which I have, by the way,
I think Ohio State, I'm not saying Ohio State's going to beat Duke, but I think Ohio State could give Duke some problems.
I don't trust Duke. Every year, and I get it, Duke's an incredible team this year. Boozer, they have other guys as well. Every year, we've heard the hype about Duke, whether it's different players. Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, Cooper Flagg, and they have not brought the championship home. And you look at St. John's is in their region. Kansas is in their region. Ohio Florida, who I love, by the way, is the 11th seed. That's my one upset in this region. I have them knocking off Louisville. They're in this region. Michigan State is in this region. UConn is in this region. That is a very tough region, in my opinion.
I have Duke coming out of this region, but I did seriously consider having them lose in the second round against Ohio State, because I think if Ohio State can get their guards going in that second round game, I think they could theoretically beat Duke. I really do. I like Bruce Thornton, and
for sure.
It's just the rebounding that I'm not sure if Ohio State can out-rebound Duke.
So I have technically 1 10 seed or lower making it to the second round in the East region, that being South Florida. Okay. I have them defeating Louisville, but I have them losing in the second round to Michigan State. And pretty much, I will tell you right now, I only have 3 first round upsets with a lower seed win. So I do think it's going to be more of a chalk tournament this year.
Okay.
Now,
go ahead.
I'll go down to the South region, so the one side of the bracket. So I already said UConn. In the South region, my Elite Eight matchup, I have number 1 seed Florida taking on number 2 seed Houston. I think Houston's out for revenge this year. I think it's really tough in this day and age. I don't think Florida's as good as the UConn team with Dan Hurley that went back-to-back a few years ago. I think that Houston, as the 2 seed, represents the South, and I have 2 versus 2 on the left side of the bracket.
You and I have the same Final Four, or the same 2 in those 2 regions, because I also have UConn facing Houston.
Okay. In the West,
I made a mistake earlier by saying I had Duke coming out of that.
Okay, so you have UConn and Houston.
Yes.
Okay. In the West, my one upset in this region is going to the 9-8 matchup. I like Utah State. They shoot the free ball well. They have a lot of great guard play. They're very tenacious on the defense side of the floor. I have them upsetting Villanova.
I have
So
Villanova winning that game.
okay,
Uh,
well that by the way, that's my last first round upset. So my only real upsets in this tournament are I have South Florida upsetting Louisville. I have Iowa. I forgot to say this. I have Iowa in the South upsetting Clemson, that 9-8 matchup. And then I have Utah State, the 9-8, upsetting Villanova in the West.
okay. I don't think any of those are too crazy.
So, my Elite Eight matchup, this may be one of the best matchups in the tournament. By the way, think about the Elite Eight matchups that I have at least St. John's, UConn, Florida, Houston, and I'm going to add to this now Arizona against Gonzaga. That is a 1 seed versus a 3 seed. I think Gonzaga will knock off Purdue in the Sweet 16 to get there. Arizona will knock off Arkansas in one of the best games in the Sweet 16. That game will probably go down to the wire. I love what Few has done at Gonzaga, but like you said, I think Arizona, when I watched them against Houston, that game a few weeks ago, the same day Duke and Michigan was on, I watched Arizona and I thought they were the best team in college basketball. So I like Arizona being a 1 seed here and getting out of the West region.
Okay. We're in agreement so far.
Okay.
I think this last region is where we're going to disagree.
Okay, interesting. So in the Midwest, my Elite Eight matchup, I have Michigan as the 1 seed. They're taking on the number 3 seed of Virginia. And I do think that the number 1 seed Michigan, who has, in my opinion, their best team since the Fab Five team, they can shoot. Now they have been a little bit vulnerable. They lost to Purdue in the Big Ten championship. They almost lost to Ohio State there in the semifinal. But I think if they can lock in, play good defense, shoot the free ball well enough, I think that Michigan is the second 1 seed to get to the Final Four, and they will take on Arizona.
This is, like I said, this is the one region where I disagree because I actually have Virginia coming out of this region.
Okay, do you think so? But do you have them facing Michigan in the Elite Eight?
Let me double check on that. Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's really the only difference. You have Virginia knocking off Michigan in the Elite Eight.
Yes.
And that was a debate for me, but I think Michigan is a team that this year should make the Final Four, the way they have played all season long.
Yeah. And then I'll let you go first with your Final Four.
Okay, I'm going to say it like this. The national championship game, I have number 2 Houston trying to win it this year after losing last year to Florida. I have them taking on the Arizona Wildcats.
Okay. I have UConn taking on Arizona.
Okay. I have Arizona winning the national championship.
As do I.
So that's kind of strange because I feel like Duke is the heavy favorite, but I've heard more people say that Arizona is going to win the national championship more than anybody, which scares me.
Arizona, I get why Duke is the overwhelming favorite, but Arizona just looks like the most complete team. You got Jaden Bradley, you got Del Orso, I think is his last name, coming off the bench, and he can shoot. They have size. They play tenacious defense. Arizona, in my opinion, is the most complete team in the tournament.
Now, I will say, out of the Big 12 as well, I thought they'd get a terrible draw in the Sweet 16, or I would have really liked this team. It's Iowa State out of the Midwest. That Iowa State Virginia game, I mean, this Sweet 16, I have Arizona, Arkansas, Gonzaga, Purdue, Michigan, Texas Tech, Virginia, Iowa State, Houston, Florida, Illinois, Houston, Florida, Nebraska, Michigan State, UConn, Duke, St. John's. All those teams are pretty much blue bloods.
Yeah. And honestly, if we get that Duke St. John's matchup, I'm gonna actually pick St. John's to win
That's
that.
what I have. I have St. John's taking on UConn in the Elite Eight because I have St. John's beating Duke and I have UConn defeating Tom Izzo and Michigan State.
Let me see. Yeah, I have Duke taking on St. John or Duke taking on UConn, but I'm actually switching that. I am going with UConn against St. John's. And what scares me is St. John's has basically owned UConn this season.
Yeah, and I mean, you. By the way, though, you look at this round of 32. We could get St. John's versus Kansas. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I did in the East region, I did think about having UCLA lose against Central Florida, but
I thought about it too, but I don't know. I just feel like with the NIL and the brand, I think the big brands are going to be successful in this tournament. I think UCLA has played well enough and better competition in the Big Ten to where they can win at least one game.
I actually just decided to make the switch. I don't fully trust UCLA. I think UCF sneaks out a win. One of my other upsets, I know Vanderbilt has been playing well, but I think McNeese is going to beat them.
That's one I know a lot of people like. That's one where, like, if McNeese wins, let's see, where are they? Okay, so McNeese wins. They would play Nebraska, who I think is going to beat Troy. Like, McNeese is a good candidate for Cinderella. I think they could probably beat Nebraska.
Yeah. But the one I really like is VCU. I think VCU, I've got them facing Houston in the third round.
Everybody's got them beating North Carolina. I think I'm going to take North Carolina because I think they've heard. I think that's the most common upset. I think they've heard it. I know Caleb Wilson's not back. I think that team would have been a 3-4 seed without him being there. I think they're still a pretty good team. I have a weird feeling they're going to beat VCU pretty soundly.
And from what I heard, if VCU hadn't won the Atlantic 10 championship,
they would have not been in.
Yeah. By the way, how did you feel about Miami of Ohio? They lose against UMass in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament, and now they have to play in the first four. Are you all right with that, or do you think they should have just been in the tournament straight up?
I mean, I think that excuse me, they as a team overall probably deserve to be in the tournament. The problem is you can't really put two MAC teams in the same field.
Yeah, and also like I agree with you about them being in the MAC. And when you look at their schedule, sure they can't control necessarily who they play, but they didn't play anybody of note. And
no. And the analytics do say that Akron was the better team.
Yeah. I think Akron's one conference loss was against Miami, and it was a close game, but Miami didn't blow anybody out. Most of their games came down to like the final possession.
Yeah, I mean, could I make a case that maybe Miami's better than like a Homestra or a Wright State? Maybe put them in over them and give one of those two teams the first four. But let's face it, nobody that plays in the first four theoretically is going to win a round, let alone two. So it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
No, you mentioned Hofstra, though. I forget who they're playing in the first round.
They're playing Alabama, who Alabama's not playing great, but like they should be able to beat Hofstra.
I don't know. That one's a little tricky, and I actually gave a lot of consideration to having Kennesaw State beat Gonzaga because Kennesaw.
Wow.
I did give consideration to it. I did not choose it. I stuck with Gonzaga.
Well, you have until Thursday at noon officially. You can still change it technically.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's just something about Gonzaga. I'm like, I don't know if I fully trust them. And we've seen Kennesaw State, get into the tournament, cause problems.
Do some damage. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Um, I don't know if there's going to be a big Cinderella this year. I hope there is, but it hasn't felt like it all year. It's felt like a dominating year from the Blue Bloods.
I don't. When was the last time we had a true Cinderella? Oakland?
I would say it would be NC State a couple years ago with DJ Burns that got to the Final Four.
Oh, yeah, when they were like an 11 seed or something, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say they were a Cinderella. I would say the Cinderella would be more like what St. Peter's did.
Or I would argue Loyola Chicago, right? They got to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, like what St. Peter's did, or when Oakland took down Kentucky, and I think
that was a wild one a couple years ago. That was the bracket buster. I am curious what is going to be the bracket buster this year. You're right. Could it be Alabama? I don't trust Purdue. I mean, I think they'll get by Queens, but could they lose to Miami? Maybe. Like, I I don't know. Maybe Florida, I think, is a candidate who, again, they're a good number one seed, but they got to go through Iowa. They got to go through potentially Nebraska or Vanderbilt. They could go out early. So I think it's going to be a very interesting tournament.
I hope it's like, I don't want it to just be chalk. I don't like that. Last year's tournament, yeah, it had great games, but and it had exciting games. Don't get me wrong, but having it just be chalk got a little boring.
I would argue I want it to be chalk because my bracket says it's going to be chalk, and I want my bracket to do well.
But you get what I mean, though, about like if it's chalk, it gets a little boring.
Well, it just depends on how good the games are. I want better games, and Cinderella stories and rooting for those make for better television. Sometimes they don't make for better games, though.
I want a good mix of both. Like
I agree, but it always depends on who the Cinderella is. Like if it's Oakland and they're a boring team to watch, no, I don't want to root for them.
I'm not saying I would root for the Cinderella, but
that's what I'll do. When it gets to the Sweet 16, I'm rooting for the Cinderella all the way because it's cast. That's when it gets fun, in my opinion.
That I agree with.